the rest is the work. So many people, especially entrepreneurs, we get in a headspace where it's like hard to have an off switch, and we all just want to be grinding, nose to the grindstone, and chipping away at it. That goes back to approaching things out of desperation versus inspiration. Do you need to get this done versus I'm feeling fulfilled and I'm feeling engaged while doing this? So the rest being the work is very valid. And I feel like so many people in the entrepreneurial state don't necessarily acknowledge the rest as important as it should be. And that's just being intentional with your breaks, intentional with how you're approaching your day. Are you doing the things that are giving you fuel? Because if you're not, it goes back to we're pouring from an empty cup, right? And that's how we're going to be showing up with our work. If we have an empty cup, we're on E, it's not going to reflect the best version of yourself.
Are you feeling a little bit overwhelmed with all the external pressures and expectations that the new year brings? Maybe you're feeling a little bit stuck in your current situation or feeling anxiety about falling behind. The good news is you are not alone. So many others, myself included, are feeling the exact same way. The further good news is therapy can help. A therapist can help you distinguish external pressures from your own internal values. Develop a timeline that feels authentic to you rather than one imposed by society. Process any feelings of inadequacy or comparison and whatever else you might be feeling or experiencing. Whatever challenges this new year might bring up for you, BetterHelp can help make it easier. BetterHelp is a therapy platform that is entirely online, making it both comfortable and convenient. Simply fill out a questionnaire and you'll be matched with a therapist in as little as a couple of days. And don't worry, you can easily switch therapists at any time if it's not the right fit. Start fresh at any day of the year with BetterHelp by clicking the link in the show notes or go to betterhelp.com/unfulfilled to get 10% off your first month of therapy. Hey everyone, welcome back to Unfulfilled. Thank you so much for tuning into today's guest episode. Today I am joined with a great guest, Brian Cullum. Brian is a productivity coach who helps small business owners supercharge their productivity and manage themselves like a CEO, encouraging them to learn how to take action. Brian also is growing his business while being a full-time traveler. So he's going to share with us how he's able to do all this and hopefully inspire us all. Brian, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. Super stoked to be here.
Really excited as well. So let's dive in. You share about how you used to be working long hours and feeling stuck. Can you share your journey from that life, that lifestyle, to now living your dream life, traveling and working as a productivity coach?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I joined the military fresh out of high school. I was in aviation. That was actually something that I was very much interested in at the time. I transitioned to being a civilian outside of that and doing the very similar thing. It was a very corporate environment. Your typical, it wasn't 9 to 5. It was more like 8 to 8. It was very long hours, a lot of work, and it started to kind of suck the soul out of me, so to speak. And granted, I did like the work. I was getting paid good money, but there was just that lack of fulfillment in that area. And it was kind of just a bit of a bunch of chain reaction to a bunch of negative things that happened one after the other that led me to actually finally take the leap, right? Like I think I was just stuck in that for so long, stuck in the comfort of it. And once I went through these things, I went through a heartbreak. I was just very unfulfilled with work. I was very depressed. I was in a very dark place, and it just shined a light on what I was doing and made me realize I was like, this is not it. And just kind of reflecting like, 20 years from now, is this where I'm going to be? So I decided to make a very big leap, and I sold all of my stuff. I sold my car. I sold all of my belongings, and I decided to book a one-way ticket to Thailand. So through that process, through my heartbreak, I started going through all the things that I told myself that I wanted to do, but I never did, right? I started training Muay Thai. I started running ultra marathons. I wanted to travel the world, and I knew that I wanted to create a business. I just wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. I knew I wanted to help people. This is something that I've always felt passion with is guiding people to the right direction and feeling more fulfilled in their life, which I wasn't at the time, but I always had a passion for this. And so I spent the last 3 years really traveling around and building up what exactly I wanted to do. And yeah, it's been such an amazing journey. I'm just super, super blessed to be doing this right now, doing what I love and living the life that I love while helping people doing it. So hope that answered your question as best as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny how sometimes it takes us being at our lowest point to make those necessary changes and to make the most impactful changes in our lives. And I think hearing stories like yours and experiencing it ourselves at times, we look back and remind ourselves how important those low moments are for whenever they
Hmm.
come again, to remind ourselves, no, this is just a part of the journey. This is a necessary step. And it's probably going to lead me to the next important transformation that's going to come along in my life. So thank you for sharing that it took you being at that low point to make a change. You said you were traveling around for 3 years before even starting your business. Were you going off of savings at that time? Were you doing a side hustle on the side? How were you able to travel before even pursuing your productivity coaching?
Yeah, so I definitely had a savings. I was making pretty decent money. Since I was in the military, I had the GI Bill. I decided that I was just going to go to school online while I was traveling and get paid a little bit doing that. I was on a very, very tight budget. It was very much budget traveling. And yeah, just staying as cheap as possible through that whole process. Yeah, like you said, I was building up my business. I ended up like launching it within the year that I left.
Mhm.
So it was definitely a process, and of course, that takes some time to get going by all means. But it was mainly off of savings and the stuff that I sold in order for me to take that leap. But it was a risk worth taking because I couldn't continue down the path that I was on. It was devastating to say the least.
I love that you asked yourself the question too, in 20 years from now, would I be happy with the life I'm living now? And that was a big fuel and motivation for you to take the leap. What
Mhm.
other advice do you have for someone who might want to take a risk, but is feeling stuck because of that fear of failure?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a very valuable question. So, what I like to take my clients through, especially right in the beginning, is what we call their currency, which is, not so much financial, but, what do you value the most in your life? And we do that by reflecting on the end of it first, reflecting on the end of your life, your deathbed, right? Like, what are you looking back on? What are you proud of? What do you wish that you did that you haven't done yet? People surrounding you, the relationships that we have. If there's people that are around you right now that aren't serving that currency, that aren't going to be there at the end, it's like, okay, do they have a positive impact on my life? If they're not going to be there at the end, and they're not going to be the people who I want to be spending all that time with, might be a good sign that they're not fueling us the way that they should be. So I think reflecting on the end, it's a bit morbid, but it's also like very valuable. And I just started asking myself those questions like, is this something that I'm going to be proud of at the end? And it wasn't at all. And like I knew that what I wanted my life to be. You're seeing people on Instagram traveling the world, doing all this great stuff. Granted, social media is sometimes a mask for a lot of people, but just seeing people live the life that I wanted to. And I was like, wow. And early on, I never envisioned myself ever being able to do that. Like, just I'll take a 2-week vacation to Italy or something like that, but there's no way that I could ever travel the world full time. And I was like in my own head that was never going to happen. So once I had that reflection on, okay, this is something that I absolutely need to do, or else I'm going to be in this rut for the rest of my life. And it was just such an awakening moment. And I encourage a lot of people to reflect on what is that going to look like at the end. If what I'm doing now is not going to make me proud, then maybe I shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, that's really, really powerful. The idea of kind of fast forwarding to your deathbed, because sure, it is a bit of an uncomfortable and difficult thought for people, but it is the most powerful way to immediately shift your mindset. One
Mhm.
of my favorite books, Untethered Soul, I don't know if you've heard of it or read it, but it has a whole chapter about that. And it's the most highlighted chapter in my copy of the book because it immediately just opens your eyes to the fact that, wow, this life is so precious and so short, and it's in session now. Like, if it were to end in a week, which again, morbid, sad thought, but we have to go there to have this mindset shift. If it were to end in a week, how would I live that week? Realizing that we have to start to live that life now, because otherwise it's gonna be 50 years down the line, and then we're gonna realize we missed it. We're just
Mhm.
gonna wait for retirement to live the life that we want. And I think that's what our society kind of tells us we should do. So I'm really, really glad you shared that. And a big thing I come to a lot is, how do I avoid future regret? If I'm going to regret not going for something in the future, I should probably go for it now. How is pouring from an empty cup not serving us?
Yeah, pouring from an empty cup, and that's essentially burnout, right? As we have nothing left to give, and we're still trying to give. We phrase it as burnout, but there's also a lot of things that come along with that, right? Is you get anxiety, you start to procrastinate towards certain things. Maybe you're depressed or just really feeling unfulfilled. And so whenever we're at that state and whatever we're trying to pursue at the time, whether it's just like, physical fitness or whether it's starting a business, whatever it is, if we're unable to give our full energy into that, it's going to 100% reflect. So I go through this with a lot of business owners that are struggling to manage that, right? Struggling to manage a full-time day job while also starting their own thing on the side. It's like, okay, we need to figure out a way to recharge during that process to where our days are not just taking away from us. We're giving ourselves energy to put into it. And there's a variety of ways that we can do that, and we could definitely dive into that. It's essentially just having fun with your day. And it's, of course, like, how can I have fun while filling out an Excel spreadsheet? Or how can I have fun while answering emails? There's
I want the
definitely
answer to
ways.
that question.
Yeah. I mean, what I preach a lot is leaning into your play personality, right? Everybody has something that they enjoy doing. This is like how they have fun. It could be, just collecting things, collecting whatever, like knickknacks or cars. It could be rebuilding stuff, like, working on cars. It could be creative, people who like to paint or who like to just build something that they can appreciate. And so, granted, it's kind of hard to, work on a car while you're, at work, but we could create ways to make work more of a challenge, essentially just making work a game in a way that best suits your play personality. So whether it's turning on a timer and racing your previous time or whatever it is, something very simple, like filling out an Excel spreadsheet. If you're a creator, if you like to, make things beautiful, color code stuff and make it your own, right? Build up what you like to do within that work. And that's a very low ticket version of recharging. It's not necessarily the absolute thing that you want to be doing at the time, but then we can be utilizing our break time, our time in between work tasks, to dive deeper into that stuff. Whether it's doing a hobby or just going for a walk and recharging. I don't know if that answers your question fully, but
Yeah, I really like that perspective. It's coming back to the little things. What are the small things we can do throughout our day and the things we can look forward to that add color and joy to our day? So I love the idea of making your Excel tasks fun, even by just color coding or timing yourself or listening to something fun on the side while you do it. Or, personally, like, okay, I really look forward to my morning cup of coffee, my midday walk, little things that maybe recharge you, but also help you avoid leading down that path of burnout. But then I also love the advice that you mentioned, doing things on the side that are just for fun and that bring us joy. Literally a couple weeks ago, one of my New Year's resolutions was to do just that, because I'm sure you can relate to this, but I always like to be productive. Having my own side hustle, I feel like I utilize every minute of the day. And in order to avoid burnout, in order to add more color and joy and fun to my life, I have decided I needed to add things in that are just for enjoyment. Not just going to dinner with a friend, but elements of play. I love that idea of elements of play. So I joined a choir once a week.
Nice. That's awesome.
And I haven't been in a choir since literally middle school, but it's been so much fun. It's this adult choir in New York City, and there's a whole bunch of kind of quirky characters, but it's fun. And I leave it feeling energized and excited. And the coolest thing about it is it's just for fun. Like, there's nothing I'm gaining from it, or there's nothing I'm trying to grow or monetize, or, there's no hidden incentive.
Yeah. Very, very valuable point right there. And the tasks that we do to have fun, I think for a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs in general, it's like we try to make everything have a due date. We try to make everything have intention behind it. Like, how is this going to make me money? And to have things on the side that are not that at all, that it's like, I'm literally just doing this just to be creative and just to have that. That's a valuable form of recharging. Now, if you're doing it to get something out of it, right, with an end goal in mind, rather than just enjoying the process, that's such a huge difference. And just being intentional with that, right? Like, intentional with your time. So, if you have a problem with scrolling on social media, okay, if you still need that fixed throughout the day, like, I need to scroll at some point, well, let's set some time aside to do that. Like, we don't need to just pick up our phone and start scrolling randomly. Like, you're a very busy person, me as well. I need to set some time aside to do the things that I want to do and be very intentional with it. That way we don't feel nearly as guilty when we're doing it. It's like, I planned this. I'm here scrolling because I told myself that I was going to be here scrolling, rather than get caught up in the loop. 2 hours went by and I had stuff planned and I just didn't do it.
I also find it helpful to actually get curious about the things we feel like we need to be doing or
Mm,
the things that we think recharge us and actually be honest with ourselves about whether we do need them in our day. Like there was a time when I would watch Netflix every single night because I thought that was my way to recharge. And then I actually heard this podcast that revealed that actually your brain is stimulated and not recharging while you're watching TV. Recently, instead of watching TV at night, I'll edit the podcast for a while and then I'll read. I actually no longer carve out time to watch TV. On weekends, sometimes I'll do it, but it was something that I almost always devoted like 30 minutes or an hour to every single evening until I actually paused and asked, wait, what if I didn't spend my time in that way? And then
mm.
instead substitute it with something that I want to incorporate or something that is more in alignment with my values and what I'm working towards and a way to actually recharge, like reading and something that will promote better sleep. And actually, I found it to be a lot better use of my time. So what's your advice for people who might need to get more curious about scrutinizing their schedule a little bit and getting curious as to, is this serving me or maybe is this not serving me?
Hmm. Yeah, what you're saying as far as the Netflix goes, I'm definitely guilty of the same thing. Just wanting to be a little bit mindless and just sit there and enjoy it. And I think there's points for it, like maybe scheduling it for your weekend. But I find that if I want to do something along those lines, I set myself a task to get done beforehand. And like, okay,
Mhm.
if I want to get this done, I need to first things first edit this piece of content because it's very easy to procrastinate on that stuff. Like I have this big box of entertainment sitting in front of me. It's like drawing me in. I want to catch up on the show that I'm doing. So what I do to help gauge that on, making sure that I'm still getting my work done that I need to be doing is, okay, I have 3 minutes. I'm giving myself a 3 minute window where I am going to work on this thing that I told myself I was going to be doing. And then after those 3 minutes, if I want to go back to Netflix, I will. But the biggest thing that a lot of procrastinators see with this and like making it very difficult to get the task done is just the initial action, the momentum that's being built from it. So taking the 3 minutes to do the task and allowing yourself to go back to Netflix if you need to, like allow yourself that opt out. But you'll find that once you start going down the path of doing the productive thing, you get the momentum going, you start getting the dopamine hits, you start to get the feel good hormones of actually accomplishing something, and you're going to want to keep going. This was just the case the other night. Like, I don't typically play video games, but I was kind of craving playing some video games, and I was like, you know what? I still have this stuff to get done. I'm just going to take 3 minutes and start editing this one piece of content. An hour later, I am fully done with a piece of content, and I don't even want to play video games. Like, I'm just going to go to bed. And granted, if I wanted to, I could have just went back and done it. Allowing yourself to, like I was saying, have that opt out, because in the future, if you tell yourself that I'm going to give myself 3 minutes, but then I'm going to force myself to do it, then that whole process doesn't really work. But I think that's just such a super effective way to keep taking action and not procrastinating on, on the stuff that is very easy to get sucked into, scrolling included.
I think that's such an interesting insight. It's so true that starting something's the hardest, whether
Mm-hmm.
it be just doing a task or whether it be starting a business. It's gaining the momentum to do it. It's funny because he's probably going to listen to this, but my dad has been wanting to start a book for a while. And I kept kind of nudging him towards starting this book. I'm like, hey, how's the book coming? He's like, oh, I'm going to start like next week or whatever. And for Christmas, I got him this kind of like outline how to write a book, whatever, autobiography. And he finally dove into it. And my mom keeps sending me photos of him just like constantly writing in it. Like he's through the entire book already
Love it.
because
Love
all
it.
he had to do was just start. And that came to mind the second you said that because he's been talking about doing this for so long. And now that he's actually started, he's so excited about it. And he's built up that excitement, that joy, that happiness. He's in that groove and he's feeling that momentum. And you're so right. If you give yourself the 3 to 5 minutes, whatever it is, to work on the thing you know you really want to and should be working on, you're not going to go back to the Netflix or the scrolling, but actually shifting from the Netflix and the scrolling to actually doing it is the hardest part. Or it's getting out of bed and going to the gym. Like, when you're at the gym, you're going to have fun and you're going to leave feeling really, really good. It's
Mhm.
just actually taking the steps to start.
Exactly. Making the first initial step as less friction as possible. So, especially in your dad's case, like he wants to start writing a book. A lot of times, like in people's minds when they're doing that, it's like I need to sit down for an hour and write out the next chapter. And that is just such a big thing to put onto yourself when you're trying to take action. It's like I need to commit an hour or 2 hours, however long. When in reality, okay, let's write 2 sentences every day. Same thing with like playing an instrument. I'm a big fan. I have the keyboard back here and my guitar. I initially starting it, I knew consistency is key here. I know that I need to be practicing this every single day. If I try to give myself 30 minutes to practice an instrument every day, I'm just going to like not put the time aside to do it because I just have other important things going on. So, okay, how do I do this? 5 minutes, and I'm going to practice a few chords. And then that 5 minutes turns into the 30 minutes. And that makes it so much easier to approach it. So just baby steps along the way and making sure that it's a very easy thing to pick up and get started. And there's other things that go along with it as well, like making sure that you have barriers in between the negative habits that you want to avoid, and then making it as easy as possible to, pick up the pen or pick up the guitar, right? Not having the guitar in your case in the closet, having the guitar right next to your couch. Whenever you get home and you always sit on the couch, the guitar is right there within reaching distance. Just eliminating the barriers that you need in order to pursue that and make it easy.
Yeah. Okay, there's a couple things I love that you just said that I want to dive into a little bit. So the first thing, I love that idea that instead of forcing yourself to do it for 30 minutes to an hour, what if you just accidentally kind of let yourself do that? And I think that is the mindset shift a lot of us need to hear if we do want to start something. It's a bit intimidating to carve out all that time. And I think it's a lot easier to come up with the excuse like, oh, I don't have the time, or, oh, I'll do it next week, when it seems more daunting to write a whole 1,000 words or practice for 30 minutes or an hour. Again, fill in the blank of whatever it is you want to do. But what if you just wrote a couple sentences? Or what if you, instead of going to the gym for an hour, what if you went on a 10-minute walk or do 10 push-ups? I don't know, whatever it is. And then hopefully in gaining that momentum, then you just accidentally do it. Like you said, I've experienced that with the podcast for sure. I'll say, okay, I'm going to edit for 10 minutes. And then all of a sudden I'm like an hour in and I've edited the whole episode because I enjoy it. And because I have a bigger purpose and why that working towards something fuels and it provides a level of excitement, which I'm sure you can relate to. The other thing I love that you said is making it easy and eliminating barriers. I love this idea because I think what's preventing a lot of people from being productive and what's leading people to procrastinate are the barriers. And maybe that barrier is a limiting belief. Maybe you need to write something down to remind yourself of something that needs to encourage you every single day. Or maybe, like you said, you need to pull that guitar out of the closet. Or for me, like I keep my podcast set up if I have a recording in the morning, for example. So it's like one less thing that I have to do in the morning. Lay out your gym shoes in the morning if you want to work out. Eliminating barriers and making things easy is such a beautiful insight to encourage you to enter that state of flow.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is something that I go over with my clients, the low ticket to entry as far as, your habits go. Set a floor and a ceiling. And the floor is the bare minimum that you can do in order to just keep that momentum going. So if you can't make the gym for the day, can you do 50 push-ups? It's like, okay, that's my floor. My workout for the day, bare minimum, I do 50 push-ups. And then the maximum, the ceiling is going to be, okay, I go to the gym for an hour, then I do a sauna session afterwards. And then maybe I go on a run earlier in the day. And, the maximum potential that you would want to put towards this thing, keeping the momentum going with the floor if need be. Like play 5 minutes of the guitar. That's my floor. Now, if I wanted to have a whole session playing 30 minutes to an hour, great, that's my ceiling. Having those two things and having them set out prior to achieving them lets you know it's like, okay, I know what I need to get done in order to just make sure that I'm sticking with this momentum and keeping that going, making sure that we're staying on top of the things that we value the most in our life.
That's such a great strategy because that also allows for us to listen to our bodies and give ourselves that rest and recharge when we need it, right? Let's go back to the idea of writing a book. Let's say you have this schedule where you need to write, I don't know, like 2 chapters a day. I don't really know what goes into writing a book, but you're feeling that burnout and need a recharge. Are you going to force yourself to write those 2,000 pages or maybe allow yourself the bare minimum of, I'm going to write 100 words today and that's going to be enough. And then maybe get curious as to what rest or fun or play or recharge could I maybe incorporate today while also coupling in that bare minimum.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is like if we're forcing ourselves to do this thing that it's not coming naturally to us, right? Like I need to write an entire chapter. How are you going to show up when writing that chapter? Is that going to be your best work? Probably not, especially if you're just not in the space to do so. But and this is something that I preach a lot is showing up to your work with inspiration rather than desperation. And if you're just desperate to get something done, it's going to reflect on every single thing that you do. But showing up inspired, showing up full of energy and approaching your work from that standpoint, that's going to reflect and that's going to make your business so much better. That's going to make your work so much better. And it's going to reflect the best version of yourself. And that's the name of the game, right? We want to make sure that in order to be an effective business owner, or really just anything in general, we need to be the best version of ourselves to approach that. So making sure that we're showing up in the right headspace. And we do that by just chipping away, building up that momentum, and not leaning into I have to do this because if I don't, I'm going to be homeless. And I think that's just super important.
I couldn't agree more. It's interesting though, because one thing that I do say a lot, and I'm curious your take on this, is it's helpful to do something even when you don't feel like it. But to me, what that means is starting something even when you don't feel like it. Like we just said, like, okay, I don't feel like going to the gym, or I don't feel like editing. I'm going to do it anyways. And then when you start, you gain that momentum. But now I have this whole newfound perspective where, okay, I'm going to do it even if I don't feel like it, but knowing that I don't have to do it to the same capacity or to the same ceiling, like you said, every single day, which I think is a really helpful balance that we all need to allow ourselves sometimes.
For sure. Yeah, discipline is definitely effective, and it's a hard thing to have, but it's much easier to be disciplined when we have a full cup, if we're full of energy, if we're approaching things in the right way. And that's where the recharging fact comes into play. So for those of you struggling with discipline out there, making sure that we're taking the steps to where, okay, I'm showing up as the best version of myself possibly, that allows you to be a lot more disciplined with a task that you're approaching. It's a very good value to be able to do something, even though you don't necessarily want to do it in the moment. But there are ways to make it easier to have that level of discipline. And that comes in through recharging and making sure that we're living up to our full potential and what we want to be doing on a day-to-day basis. You know, if you want to be playing your guitar, if you want to be meditating, all those things keep that momentum going to make you more disciplined.
So, for those of us that struggle more with the recharge, incorporating the rest and the fun and the play that we just shared is so important to avoid burnout and to actually be productive. What does that balance look like in assuring that we're being productive while still allowing that rest and recharge?
I think it's really important to note that the rest is the work. I mean, so many people, especially entrepreneurs, we get in a headspace where it's like hard to have an off switch, and we all just want to be grinding, nose to the grindstone, and chipping away at it. And I think that goes back to approaching things out of, desperation versus inspiration. Do you need to get this done versus I'm feeling fulfilled and I'm feeling engaged while doing this? So the rest being the work is very valid, and I feel like so many people in the entrepreneurial state don't necessarily acknowledge the rest as important as it should be. And that's just being intentional with your breaks, intentional with how you're approaching your day. Are you doing the things that are giving you fuel? Because if you're not, it goes back to we're pouring from an empty cup, right? And that's how we're going to be showing up with our work. Is if we have an empty cup, we're on E, and we're still trying to go forward with that. It's not going to reflect the best version of yourself. So planning out times in your day to have that recharge, to pursue the things that you want to be doing that are going to be giving you energy, or just incorporating that in your work in general, that is going to take you to the next level rather than just chipping away and just, picking up the shovel at the beginning of the day and just start digging, right? It's so important how we spend our rest time. And we could do it through a variety of different ways. Your relationships, right? Like how you're getting sleep at night, like your dopamine hits, your healthy dopamine hits, I should say, right? Scrolling through social media, watching Netflix, like when do you ever feel great about scrolling for 2 hours? You typically end that and you feel pretty sad or depressed, or just realizing that you didn't get anything done. And it just leads into this whole chain reaction, right? Procrastination is pretty fear-based. Fear of removing your comfort to go pursue something that might be a little bit more uncomfortable.
I really love that idea that the rest is the work. I'm literally probably going to go write that down. I love that you brought up this idea of releasing a comfort to maybe pursue something that's a bit uncomfortable. But I think every single pursuit that's worth going for is going to feel uncomfortable. That fitness routine that you want to do in the gym isn't going to feel comfortable all the time. That business you want to start, you're going to have a lot of self-doubt. It's going to feel uncomfortable and lonely at times. There's this fear around discomfort, but I think where our focus should be is what's on the other side of that discomfort. It's that growth. It's that life we actually want to be living. It's that strength we want to be feeling. It's that health and energy that we want to feel every single day. Pushing through that discomfort is really important, and asking ourselves, why are we doing this? And that can help fuel ourselves in going through that discomfort.
Absolutely. I think you nailed it. Some of the worst times of my life were followed up by, the absolute life-changing things that I dreamed about pursuing. And once you go through that process, especially like once or twice, on where you're feeling very, very uncomfortable, and then you power through it, and you come out the other side having much more growth. You almost start to crave the discomfort. Like, okay, I'm feeling uncomfortable right now. This is good. I'm learning from it. I might look like an idiot. And I think that's what so many people fear. And that's why there's so much procrastinating going on behind that. But that is where you see the most growth, and you start to build up that momentum and just feel really good about what you're doing on a regular basis. There's not enough of that. And I've gotten to a point to where I almost like strive for the failures. Every successful person out there, every entrepreneur that you've seen has struggled and has gone through several failures, and they've learned from it and they continue to push on anyways. Give me all the failures. I want them, because I know that it's going to make me a better person. And yes, it's uncomfortable, but I have thrived after that point. And it's just amazing.
I couldn't agree more. So well said. Brian, I'm going to end it right there. Thank you so much for taking the time today. Where can everyone find you if they want to learn how to be more productive?
Yes, so my Instagram handle is Brian Cullum, BrianCullum. Find me on there and go ahead and reach out. I'm a productivity coach, as Camille had said. Looking forward to seeing you guys.
Awesome. I'll link all that in the show notes for everyone as well. Thanks again for taking the time, Brian.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And thank you all again so much for tuning into this episode of Unfulfilled. Again, if you're not already, please press follow or subscribe for access to episodes every single Tuesday and Friday when they come out. And send this to a friend who might need to hear this message. Send this to someone you love who wants to live a more fulfilling life. And I'll see you all again soon on your journeys to becoming more fulfilled.